Let's go. Yo, I'm like an addict, do I gotta have it. I ain't even playing, got a really bad habit. If it moves, gotta grab it, fuse like a magnet. Lose, won't have it till I'm doomed in a casket. I ain't playing, got a weird mind. If you work 8 hours, I'ma work 9. If the shit tastes sour, you should taste mine. I'ma stay in power for a long time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. I'm never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast, and that's facts. Only I can make a change. Slowly take a step today. I will never be the same. Cause that's what it takes. In my veins, I've been driving this train. Years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame. Cause I came to the game and I changed it to play how I like, rearranged it to my own domain. Yeah, I got what it takes, made lots of mistakes. Taking shots, skipping breaks, feeling lost, feeling great. Popping off, singing straight, never stopped, never changed. All the squad here to play and I've got something to say, yeah. I work hard each and every day. I get lost in the words I say. I don't push pause, no I push play. I won't stop till I make a change. I withdraw on the things I make. I turn flaws into flawless traits. I build tall, never capped in space. I won't stop till I hear him say, oh, oh, la, 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 la. And I'm up again. I got tired eyes, need a cup of blend. That's right, in the AM, that's my only friend. No light, just the sun coming up on the horizon. I lose track of time, yeah, I move fast and climb a new class divine, yeah, true passion shines. And I'm through passing time, I choose stacking dimes. You snooze half the time while I move passing by. I work hard each and every day. I get lost in the words I say. I don't push pause, no I push play. I won't stop till I make a change. I withdraw on the things I make. I turn flaws into flawless traits. I build tall, never capped in space. I won't stop till I hear him say, oh, oh, la, 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 la. La, 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 la. Oh, 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 oh.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Something is whack with my software today. So I'm not sure, but welcome. I'm Khara Plicanic, and this is Creative Pro. And I see we've got some people here and ready to learn about what? What are we learning about today? We're going to learn how to create mock-ups. Yes, this is one of my favorite things to play with here in Photoshop. And specifically, we are going to be learning about different types of mockups, resources for where you can get things to make mockups with or make your own, and some tips and tricks for how to make the most of whatever mockup resources you have. And I think it's going to be fun. Now, if you like learning and you love being on top of all the latest and greatest when it comes to the creative world, then we want to make sure that you also know about Creative Pro Week, which is coming up this summer. We're going to be actually live for a week in Nashville, Tennessee. I will be there. Our favorite top speakers are going to be there, our regular attendees that have been with us for many years, and I'm sure a bunch of new people, and we are going to have a wonderful time. It's basically like summer camp for creatives with a ton of learning and having all your besties there. It is so fun. And I will say the food is always fantastic. I always have to mention that. Because it is. The food is always great. We feed you, we inspire you, we encourage you, and we teach you. Okay, and we teach each other, and it's all just wonderful. And if you think that sounds like a good time, we want to help you save $100 and join us with the code livestream. So you can sign up over at creativepro.com/events. So yay, let's see what we've got going on in the chat today. I see we have some questions like, what? Like, how do I make a mock-up? Right? Exactly. That's what we're going to talk about today. So you are in the right place. Bring your questions. Have you made mock-ups before? Have you played with them a little bit and maybe they were confusing, or you don't even know, maybe you don't even know what that means. So let's take a look. We'll start by looking what is a mock-up. Let's look at some examples. How about it? So here I have a few that I've made for various things. So mock-ups are a way to showcase something that typically does not yet exist. So that could be anything from t-shirts, hats, signage, artwork, printed materials. So it's a way to take something that maybe has not yet been produced and put it in an environment where it will be used so that people can get an idea of what it is. So for example, here is a mock-up of a postcard. And so here we see the front and the back sides of this postcard, and it's in a realistic environment. So it's on a desktop. We have a little plant over here, things that help provide scale, and it's great. And if we look in our layers panel here, you can see what's going on. So there's a background here, and if we twirl this open, there are some textures stacked on top of each other over here. We have a background colorizing the textures, and all of this stuff together comprises the background. And here in this folder, you can see the front and back sides of this postcard that I created. And they just have a little drop shadow applied to them. I have a levels adjustment on top of it. We'll talk more about this, but this is huge and makes a big difference. And then we have some props like a book. We have a bowl with some yarn, because who doesn't want that? And a plant over here. And then we have this thing called light setup, and that's really subtle. You can see if I toggle it on and off there, it's very subtle. But all of these things come together to form this little scene that gives context to the thing, in this case, the postcard. Let's look at another one. This is another one that I made for a PDF. So I create a lot of PDFs for various things that may or may not ever be printed. A lot of times they are, instructional. And I want to be able to show people that part of what they're buying or downloading or a course they're taking or whatever includes this PDF. And so I sometimes show it to them like this, where I've got a few pages, some, probably not all, but maybe a few pages, and they're just kind of laid out so people can sort of see what it is. And then I have some little props here and the same kind of things. There's some sort of background. Here are my PDF pages that I exported just as JPEGs from InDesign in this case. And we have some props. Oh, excuse me, I have a sneeze. Oh my goodness. We have, excuse me, there is no good way to do that when you're live on camera. We have a couple of props here and that same lighting setup, very, very subtle, but I love it. And then here's an example of some of the like other realism bits that you can add to mockups. In this case, it's like a little shadow, theoretically being cast from a window just off camera. So there's a lot of fun you can have with this. This is another one. So a lot of times mockups might be like a top down. So we might call this a flat lay, right? Like in the world of social media, remember when flat lays became a thing and everybody was shooting flat lays for Instagram for all their stuff? So this is what some people call a flat lay, but you can also have mockups that are like a front view. So here is another scene where I've mocked up this. This is actually a framed silhouette from Disneyland that I had done years ago. So this is like a real, I photographed the frame and actually this, and then I put it in this scene, and the whole scene is virtual. And if we look in our layers panel, oh man, there's a lot of stuff in here. Mockups can be very messy file wise, but we have a background which consists of basically a wall and a surface, a countertop kind of desk table surface, or in this case, I guess it's called a floor. And we can change the color of the floor and the wall, and there's texture and all of this. And then here is my little mock-up, and then I made this little shadow so that it lives in the environment properly. And then there's all these, again, props. So like I have this letter A and there's a plant here. And so we can like move these things around and build a scene. And it's just fun, honestly. And we'll talk more about it, but this is kind of what inspires me to dig more into the 3D rendering world, because a lot of these mockups, and we'll talk about this too, but a lot of these mockups come from 3D renderings that people create and put out into the world. So that's one example. Let's look at, here's another one. So this one I created for this font that I made. My camera is sliding over here today. So I made this font out of candy hearts. So when you sell a font, I mean, it's like when you're trying to market a font, that is not something you can hold in your hands. So when you create product shots for your font, you're basically creating samples. And there's a lot of ways to do that. But in this example, for this little sweetheart font, I actually photographed all these little candy hearts and I turned it into a font. And so in my little mock-up for the font, sort of the cover image for this whole thing, I just made this little scene. And I have just a texture in the background and gradient on top of it. And a bunch of the hearts that I photographed in order to create the font. I just had a bunch of them. So I have they're scattered around. And here's the actual text itself in a couple of different type layers. And some more props that I just added in here. And like, that was kind of it. It's actually pretty simple. Here's one more that I did for a font based on my son's kindergarten handwriting that I made. And again, it's like, how do you create like a product image for font? You do a mock-up like this. So these are just all props like laying around in this scene. So, I mean, you can see like this is just an oval that I added in here. And there's props like googly eyes and glitter spilled on the table and tape and ribbon and toys and markers and all this fun stuff. And it's so fun. You get to like build a little scene. So that is what we're going to talk about today. And these are all, great. But sometimes you also just want to work from scratch, and that's a great way to get started. So I'm going to show you how you can go about doing this from scratch. And so here I have this prop image of a little camera, and we are going to create a scene for it to live in. And there's so many different ways you could do this. And so after we make this from scratch, we'll talk about your options if you don't want to work from scratch. But just to show you that you don't have to go out and buy templates or scene creators, as they're sometimes called. You can just make your own. So I wanted to show you that before we talk about all the fun things that you can find out on the web. So we're going to make this from gradients. We're just going to use gradients and some layer styles, and I think you'll be surprised. So first, let's grab our gradient tool. So the keyboard shortcut is G for gradient. And then I'm just going to come up here and draw like this. Oh, yep. And we want to make sure we have this in another layer. That happens by default now. But if you're somehow in an older version of Photoshop, it won't do this. So you want to make sure you create a layer first. And we want to drag that layer below our object. So a gradient is just a transition from one color to another. And so in this case, let's say we want this wall or background or whatever. I'm going to make it like a shade of pink, so maybe like a light shade on this side. And then on the other side of this gradient, you see we have these two dots here connected by a line. So to change the color on this side, I'm just going to double click and I'll sample the color from here, and then I'll pick like a slightly darker shade of that same color. Hopefully this will come across on the monitor. It always looks different in, real life than it does through a live stream. But hopefully you get the idea. So I'm basically picking two shades of the same color-ish, and that's our gradient. Now I'm choosing to work with a linear gradient here. So the color is going to transition linearly across the scene. And I have my lighter color here on the left and my darker color on the right, because if we look at the object that we are creating a scene for, we want to take our cues from the lighting that's already here. And if we look at this picture, if we zoom in on this, we can see that there's a shadow here to the right. And we can tell, just looking at this, that the light source is coming from the left. So we want to emulate that or echo that in our little scene that we're building. So that is why I have the lighter color of the gradient here on the left and the darker color on the right. And then if we want to add some texture to this, we can go down to our little effects button in the layers panel, and I'm going to choose, where is it? Pattern overlay. And I'm going to choose a pattern in here. Under my legacy patterns and more in the 2019 patterns folder, there's something called stone. And I'll show you how to load these in here in a second. They're not here they're on Photoshop by default, but you won't see them by default. So I'll show you how to get to these in a second. But I'm going to go in here and add this stone pattern right here. And we'll change the blend mode to soft light. And the scale should probably be more than 1%. But you can see it's very subtle. If I zoom in over here, we'll okay that. And if I zoom in, you can see that it's adding some texture here, because a wall would never be just perfectly smooth, right? Now let's do one more. Let's say that's a nice wall, but now we want to put like a counter for this to be living on. So let's grab a little marquee here. And we're going to, let me think how I want to do this. We'll put another gradient in here. across this selection. So I made a selection with my marquee tool, and then when I dragged a gradient out, because I had an active selection, that gradient gets masked. See this? So it's only going to show up where we drew that selection. And this time, if I want the counter to be white, let's say, like my counter back here, then I'm going to choose some shades of white. So I'm going to double click this side here, and I'm going to choose like almost white, but like, you know, not super bright. So pretty close, and we'll click OK. And then I'm going to double click this gradient here, and we'll come back and sample the white from this side, because we want to be able to now choose a little darker version of that. So we'll click OK, and then this should also be behind the camera. And ta-da! We just made a scene from nothing. So gradients are a huge part of this. And I can see the chat being very busy, so let's pop over there and see what your questions are. Here is a question from Kino Hopper Grave. What is the difference between a collage and a mock-up? Great question. Essentially, it's sort of the same thing in that there are layers and there are all these things going on in your file, but a mock-up is specifically intended to look like a real scene, right? So a collage can be many things. I suppose you could call a mock-up a collage in that it has pieces kind of from all over, but it is specifically, its whole purpose is to take some artwork or a product or a design of some kind and make it look real, like it's in the world already. So a lot of times this is used for digital products because they're digital. So you want to like somehow convey what they are, even though they're not intangible many times. But the other thing is that for real products in the real world that maybe just don't yet exist, this is a way to show what they will be like. So it's kind of like when you have like renderings of a building that hasn't been built yet. It's kind of like that, only it looks much more real because we can make it look real because it's Photoshop. So here is another question. The gradient looks great. How are you keeping the reflection below the camera while the background color changes? Okay, so good question. The reflection is part of this image file. So if I hide these other layers, so all we're looking at is the little camera here, it has a reflection. Oh, you can't see it, can you? There we go. I love having a program monitor, so I know what's going on. So if I hide these background layers right here, you can just see the camera layer. So we're only looking at the camera layer. And it has a very subtle reflection built in. So you can probably see it better if I add a blank layer here and I just fill it with white. You can see there is a reflection built into this camera. So it's showing up because it's just on top of everything. But it's also semi-transparent because that's how this, I don't remember where I got this. I've had this a really long time. This camera, this picture of a camera. I don't remember if I like made it and cut out the background myself or if I don't remember where it came from, to be honest. But wherever it came with that little reflection built in. So you can always build your own reflections, but it's so nice when they are built in this case. So, all right. Excellent. I'm glad I could answer your question. Perfect. Keep them coming in the chat. Oh, I see one more question here about using, we'll just add this here really quick, about using smart objects. I will show you how smart objects play into this. They make mockups much easier and much more convenient to reuse for other mockups. So we will get to that. Um, thank you for that comment about my future classes. Yes, I love this stuff. I love sharing all of these things that I learned over so many years. So many years. All right. So this is like the basic from scratch example. I'm going to close all these because there's a lot. And let me show you then how, so that was from scratch. Let me show you, yeah. Let me show you what you find out in the world when you just go looking to do a mock-up, okay? Because it varies like a lot. So I'm going to show you this and I'll show you this. I mean, any of these really, but these are some more trickier ones. Okay, so let's say you go out into the world. Like, for example, you can go to stock.adobe.com and you can just search for magazine mockup. That's how I got this image here. And if you target their free collection, then those things are free. They're free for you. So there's a lot to choose there. You can go to stock.adobe.com and you can search for like magazine mockup. You can search for like mug mockup. So you can be specific about what you're looking for, or you can search for elements like background or desktop or, you know, wall, whatever. What kind of wall? You could search stucco wall, brick wall, wood slat wall, whatever you want. So I did a search in their free collection for magazine mockup, and this was one of the images that I got. So it's free because it's from the free collection. So as long as you have a Creative Cloud ID, you can log in and license these images to use. But you'll notice that it comes as a JPEG. So there's nothing about this that is like ready to use or like something that you would pay for typically if you're on a site like Creative Market. You would be purchasing a mock-up system or template or what have you. And those we'll look at in a minute. But if you just want to like start and essentially make your own, but like have something to work with, you can find this kind of thing over at Adobe Stock. So it's just a flat JPEG. There's no layers here. There's no props built into it. Is just a flat JPEG, which means then we would need to go get our whatever it is we're going to mock up. So I happen to have a collection here of some layouts that I've done. So I'm going to open just, I guess, a couple of these things, and then we'll use them in this little fake mock-up. So this is a JPEG of a magazine layout that I built with InDesign. I exported it as a JPEG, and here I'm just going to select it all and copy it in Photoshop. And now I'm going to go in here and paste it. And it comes in like this. Step one is going to be to convert this to a smart object. That does a lot, and we'll see in a moment. But what that does, I'm going to right click on this layer and choose convert to smart object. And this now makes it possible to remember adjustments that we make to it. So for example, we're going to warp this, and we'll be able to warp it and then come back and edit the warp anytime we want to. That's huge. It's also going to make it possible to easily swap out other images without having to redo the warping. So what am I talking about? Let me show you. We've got our smart object. I'm going to scale it up. Probably we should maybe have downsized this image, but first, the image of the magazine, or exported this at a higher res so it would fit in here, but that's okay. I think this is fine for now. So I've got it adjusted so that it's like kind of the right size for the page. And now if I right click in here, or I come up here and click on this button, we can warp it. So we want this to curve around the page, right? So that might look like, let's see, something like this. So I'm literally just like pulling on these different points to warp this into a position where it looks like it's And obviously you'd want to spend a little more time on this than we're going to do here right this moment. But I'm pulling this into position to get this in the book in a way that looks correct. So that's not quite right, but you get the idea. So we are warping this by just clicking and dragging on this mesh that gets automatically generated on top of it. Okay, so I'm looking at this page. I'm looking at my camera dropping. It won't let me tighten this setting. So I'm looking at the page and I'm warping this layer to match what's going on with the page. Okay, and when we're happy with it, we can press enter on the keyboard or come up here and click this little check mark. And now it's warped to the page. And one of the things we can do is then change the blend mode to something like multiply. And now we can see all the spots where we have it wrong, which is another benefit to the smart objects. Because if this was not a smart object and we went to try to edit the warp, it wouldn't remember our existing settings. But now, because it's a smart object, I can press Command or Control T and I can click the little warp button and I can just pick right back up from where I left off. So I can adjust these things so that it fits better and more correctly. Okay, so we'll pretend that that is perfect. And there you go. Like, we just mocked up this page in a magazine. And because we changed the blend mode to multiply, and this magazine was naturally photographed or rendered or however this was generated, it was done so with white page. That allows us to change the blend mode of this layer to multiply, and we can inherit the shadows that exist on the page in the environment so that this page does not look like it's glaring white. Like if I put this back to normal mode, it looks way too white for the scene, right? So by switching this to multiply mode, it sort of takes on the lighting that is in the scene. Now we could do the same thing on another instance over here. So we could put in another page to do this side, and we can add, adjustment layers and make selections and all of this to fill in the background. But I want to show you why the smart objects are useful in another way. So let's go find this, and let's pretend we now want this page to replace this one. So we're going to go over here. I'm going to select all, copy, and let's go back to this page here. And I'm just going to double click on this smart object. So that opens the original just file. And all I have to do now is paste the new page into this. And I'll just hit save, Command or Control S. And this smart object is now baked into the magazine file that we're working with. So I'll just close it and look at that. It took that page and it replaced the one we had, but it warped it and changed, the blend mode and everything is the same. So we don't have to rewarp it and scale it and all of that. We only have to do it once. And because it's a smart object, it will remember that. So this is the kind of thing where you might be starting with a flat JPEG that you got for free when you license it from Adobe Stock, but you can spend some time setting it up and really turning it into a template that you can use and reuse very easily over time. And it's great, but you'll have to spend some time doing that. And so it's free for that reason. Keep your questions coming in the chat and we'll pop over there and make sure we get them answered. So that is a look at how you might start with a flat JPEG. And I want to show you, let me find it here. It's in here. It's in here somewhere. I don't remember where I saved it. Not in this one. Oh, I do hope I have it. Nope. I wanted to show you a file that I created for doing this. Where did I put it? Oh, I must have put it. Let me see if it's in my recent my recent because I just want to show you how easy this can be. CM. No. Nope. That's not it. I totally thought I saved it in here for you guys. Let me do one quick thing in Bridge where we're going to view items from subfolders and see if I put it. Because you can also create your own mock-ups very easily with your camera. And I was going to show you one that I did. And now I saved it. Oh, here it is. Yay. Okay. So here's another example for you. If you're like, I don't want to build my own thing from a stock image or whatever, you can photograph your own. Or maybe you have like a really specific need and you just can't find a good stock base to start with, like that magazine stock. I think this is a great example of a stock image that you can turn into a mock-up. But maybe you have a need that you can't find a solution for. So here it is. Oh, no wonder I couldn't find it because this has like a totally nonsense name. Because I used this mock-up for my son's font. And I wasn't thinking in those terms right now. But okay, how did I create this? You guys, I took a piece of paper. So this fun background is like one of those 12 by 12 scrapbook paper backgrounds you can get at the craft store for cheap. So I've got a whole bunch of those. And so I took my little 12 by 12 paper and I just laid it on the floor. These are little clothespins like one has from the craft store, things that I have. A pencil. I actually borrowed this pencil. I made this while I was at the library, you guys, one day, many moons ago. And I didn't even think to bring a pencil. So this is a borrowed pencil from the librarian. And then this is just a blank card and an envelope. So I was putting together a course about making greeting cards and designing greeting cards. And then I wanted to show how you could mock them up. So I created a mock-up with just a blank card. And I laid it on the floor by the window at my local library and took out my phone and did like a top-down photo. And so now we have a scene not that different from the stock image of the magazine, except that we created this one. And so we could build it however we wanted. And I've demonstrated this with like when I used to do senior photos a billion years ago. Here was like a mock-up of like the announcements I used to make for them. Or here, what is all this? This is a mock-up of like my son's font in being used in a greeting card design. So then all I did to do this, to set this up, you would just come in here and like select this page here, and we'll see how the object selection tool does it. Oh, that was pretty good. Still have to add this little bit down here. We'll see if it can figure it out. Oh, you guys, I don't think the object selection tool even existed when I made this, but so now I have a little selection and we could like mock up our magazine page here. So I'm just going to recopy it to my clipboard because maybe I lost it. And we'll just do an edit, paste special, paste into, look at that. And then it comes in here with a layer mask. You can see I did the same thing for these, but it was not as easy to make the selection. So it comes in here with a layer mask, and because it's not linked, I can scale this down and adjust it, and then maybe that's our greeting card design. And because this is white paper in the scene, I can again change the blend mode to something like multiply. And there's not heavy shadows in here because I was in a really bright, nice, evenly lit space. But you can see that it is taking on the subtle shadows that do exist in the scene. So that is another example of how you can make your own mock-ups just photographing stuff around you. If you are using like a blank piece of paper or something in your scene, just be mindful that it doesn't have anything on it, because then you would have to remove that at some point in order to make the most of it here. So that is another example. Let's talk about the other options. So if you don't make your own and you don't just find a stock image that you are turning into a template by adding a different background or changing colors, what are the other options? So if you go to sites like creativemarket.com and you search for terms like mockup or scene creator, then you will find so many options, and they will include things like these kinds of props. So the props that are in this scene, I did not photograph myself. I have done some. I don't know where they are, but I have plenty of kid things around here that I've used for various mock-ups sometimes. But in this case, I didn't photograph these because I had a prop collection that I bought, and then I didn't have to do it. And I'll point out that these props come with, because they're rendered, right? These are all rendered from 3D software or whatever, I think. But they come with shadows. And so that's really great because these are cast shadows as opposed to a drop shadow that's really an automated thing to create here in Photoshop. Cast shadows you can do, but it's just more effort and it's hard to make them look this good. So it's really nice when you can find a collection of props and things like this and just be able to use it. So in this case, I built the scene, but I had a collection of digital props that I could use. And in this one, same kind of thing. This came with a bunch of props and some pre-made scene configurations. So if we look down here, whatever the scene was originally called, it was from a collection called Simple Homes. And honestly, I bought this from a place that doesn't even exist anymore, so I can't even link to it. I couldn't find it to share it. It's, I think, one of my favorite ones I've ever purchased. But it comes with all these different pre-made scenes, like from the top, like a flat lay, and then there's also these front view scenes like this. And then there's some isometric scenes. It's just really cool. And there's all kinds of different props. It can be hard to work with these things because, and if I try to pull them up, and it's all, it's all moved away. Where is this? Simple Homes? I don't know where it is anymore. Oh, right here. So sometimes when you're working with these things, they can be a lot to work with. So you just kind of have to know how to use them. So here's my folder with all the stuff that I got when I purchased this. And it comes with top view scenes, front view scenes, and isometric scenes. Then there's a collection of just frames. So if we look at our top view scenes, here's some pre-made scenes, right? So they look like this kind of thing. And these are all just 3D rendered stuff. And then you can get in here and edit them. So let's say this one with the flowers. So if I open this, it looks like this. And here are all the layers that comprise the background. So we could come in here and add a color. We could change the color. Maybe we want it to be blue, right? So it's really easy to get in here and play with this stuff. But this is what you are paying for if you purchase a mockup kit or template. And I will say that some are better built than others, right? Like some might be built but not use smart objects. And now you know enough to know that it would have been better if they built it with smart objects, but you can, add a smart object to it. But you want to dig into, whenever you're looking for this stuff, you want to dig into it and see what kinds of features they have and whether they're really built for you to easily customize, or if it's basically, maybe it's not a JPEG, but it maybe is about as good as getting a JPEG. So people build them in all different ways. Sometimes they're not very organized. Sometimes it truly is a mess and it's hard to find what you're looking for. So it pays to really investigate before you spring for something that ends up being disappointing. But here, just to show you like what's happening in here, because I feel like this is the kind of thing that would inspire me to actually finally embrace learning more about 3D rendering. Because if we get in here and look at this, so like this is the plate, right? So we see we have a layer here where we could colorize this plate. So if we wanted a blue plate, we can enable that. Here is the plate itself. So if I hide the shadow layer, here's the plate itself. And then there is the shadow that is actually separated from the plate. So look at that. Isn't that so interesting? I love kind of picking these apart and learning from them. So this is also, if you purchase a scene creator or a mock-up template, really explore it. Dig into the layers panel, because you can reverse engineer a lot of things. And a lot of these things, were created with other software. So if they're like 3D rendered, and then they're put into a Photoshop template for you to use. So, that's a whole other thing. But it's just really interesting how they make use of the different layers and the different blend modes. There's a lot you can learn from this. So it's fun to just poke around. So here's like the plant. Let's see. This is one of the petals, this one here. So we have the petal, and then we have its shadow, which is separate from the petal itself. So sometimes you might be able to move the shadows around or edit the shadows. Other times they may not be separated like that, and then you'd have to separate them if you want them separated. So there's just a lot of ways to work with this. One of the things that I have taken from these scenes in particular is this idea of a light setup. And if we twirl this open, you can see that it's basically just a gradient. And this is one thing that I now add to all of my mockups. And I learned it from reverse engineering these ones that I bought. And it makes such a difference, even though on the screen right now, you're probably like, I don't see a difference. But can you see that? It's super subtle, but there's something about it that in real life, when I'm looking at it and I turn it on, it's just so much more convincing than without it. And so what this is simply a white to black gradient. So if we look at these isolated by themselves, and why is it not going to show up in here? Oop. These are just these are just gradients. Okay. I broke it. Revert. Let me show you. Here we can see it. All right. So here is just a flat background. In fact, I'm just going to fill it with flat white. So there's not even a gradient built into the background. The only gradient happening here is from this lighting setup. So you can see on the right-hand side of the screen here that it gets a little bit darker with this light setup. And so what this is, oh, now I see, because I had it locked. Duh. Okay. Oh, I tell you guys, troubleshooting. What we see is that these are just gradients. I'm going to switch this to normal mode and we'll hide this one for a minute. And it's 50% opacity. So I'm going to bring it full strength so you see it even better. So all this is a gradient. And it's not one we can edit. It's a gradient that's been either created elsewhere or created here, but then like converted into a pixel layer. So it's not like an editable gradient, but we can learn from this and we can make our own. And then maybe we can go back and add it to one of these other scenes so you can see. So let's grab our gradient tool. And one of the presets for the gradient tool is a black to white transition right here. So with your gradient tool, if you come up into this little drop down, there's a folder called basics. And if you twirl that open, this one right here will always be a black to white gradient. Now this might be too extreme. Maybe we don't want full black to white, but it will give you the idea. And then these tend to be sort of rounded. So instead of a linear gradient, I'm going to use a radial gradient. And let's reverse this so that the white is going to be on the inside of the circle. And I'll pull it out like this. Okay. So there's a button up here to reverse the gradient. So we want the white to be on the inside. So over here on the left, we'll put it on the inside if we have it reversed. So we're just stretching this out. And we can, if I press Command or Control minus and zoom out, we can also squish it if you want a more of an oval shape. But something maybe like this, maybe we'll pull this really big. This right here controls the like distribution of your gradient. So maybe we stretch it out kind of like that. Okay, so let's just pretend this is our thing. So to match what was done here, this was set, I'll turn off that background here. This was set to soft light, blend mode, and the opacity was dropped to like 50%. Okay. So this is like my imitation of this layer right here. Then there's a copy of that layer, but this one, the blend mode is set to linear burn. So we have one that's in soft light, and then I'm going to come back here and make a copy of this by pressing Command or Control J. So we have one layer that's soft light at 50%, and then this one, let's change that to linear burn, and we'll drop that down a little bit. Okay, so these two things, they look really different because these were rendered out. So it's a different build, but the concept is the same. We have a gradient. One is going to help kind of boost shadows, and the other is going to help pop some highlights. And then together they create this lighting setup that you can drag and drop into other scenes, and it just adds so much to it. So let's take this folder now and drag this into, well, let's drag it into my scene here. Do I have it? I don't have it in this scene. So perfect. Let's do that. I'm just going to grab this whole folder and use my move tool and drag it in here. And I'll set it on the top of everything. So now I have that whole light setup folder in this scene. And we can see it's bigger. So I'm going to scale this down. And I can see, can you see the difference it's making? I think it shows up on the screen, right? Hopefully. So again, it's the same gradient, but one instance is set to soft light with an opacity around 50%, and this one is set to linear burn with maybe a 30%-ish opacity. And now we can just toggle that on and off. And do you see how it just adds a little bit of dimension? I just love that so much. And you can, of course, edit it. Like if we want to move this around, we can just tap G for the gradient tool, and I could pick this up and move it and change the effect that it's having. Look at that. It's almost like a little spotlight moving around in our mockup scene. So I just think that is so fun. I feel like, I mean, I bought that thing so many years ago, like a decade or more, like so long ago, but it just really helped me understand what all you want to think about when you're building these mockups. Okay. So here are some other examples that you might find. This one I think I had somewhere. I honestly just searched my system for the word mockup and was like digging through all my files to show you. So I think I've had this one for a long time too. But this one comes with smart objects already built into it. So you'll notice it obviously has layers. This one was not a free JPEG from Adobe stock that we have to like make our own layers, put in our own smart objects, introduce our own props or background colors, etc. This just came this way. And so you'll notice if we look here in the layers panel, we have backgrounds neatly organized in a folder. We have the US size paper. So, also you want to think about, like, if you are a print designer and you're designing posters or you're designing magazines, you want to be searching for ideally a mock-up template either for US letter or for A4 or wherever you are in the world, whatever makes sense for you. You can fudge it, of course, but it's not going to be as good of a result as if you find a template specifically for your size of a project. So this is showing US letter size. That's what that means. And we have our open spread right here. And then we have our cover over here. The shadows that are on top are separated in their own folder. And then look at this. Oh, hey, here's the same thing as what we just created that I learned about by dissecting my old mockups from forever ago. Here's basically the same thing. They don't call it light setup. They've got it in a folder called adjustments. But here you can see highlights and shadows. And it's, guess what? A gradient. Let's see what these are set to. Oh, this top one is set to soft light at 40%. And the bottom one is set to linear burn at only 10%. So striking similarity there. That's funny. I don't think I even noticed that before. I'm just realizing. So you see that there are some universal concepts and truths to how these things work that you can then learn from and apply to all of your projects. So let's see how this one would work then. Let's go back and get, we'll get this. So I'm just copying this whole thing again. I have too many files open. I need to close some things. All right, so here we are. So where do we do this? So let's say we're going to put this spread here. So that's in the open folder, and there's a left page and a right page. So I'm going to open the left page and look at all the pieces that are in here. And it's so interesting to me to like pick this apart and see how it was all created. So you'll notice, this is how you know it wasn't really photographed, because look at this. These pages here, like the behind pages, they're on a separate little piece of a layer called pages, right? And then there's like the shadow here that helps create the idea of a curved page. So that's this. There's some other lighting layers. Then there's a little text here. Then there's some other gradient things. But anyway, even if you're like, my head hurts, I can't look at all of that. What you want to look for is the smart object shown here in the layers panel. So if we look, I don't know why my mouse is being weird, but that little icon right here indicates that this is a smart object. And so sometimes whoever makes these templates, sometimes they'll call them like your design here. Okay. So that is a clue. That is a clue that that's the layer you should be looking for. So we're going to just double click that, and I'm going to just paste my layout in here, and I might need to scale it a little bit, and perfect. I'll remove the text. You'll notice the layer is called delete me because it's meant to be deleted, and I'll just hit Command or Control S and Command or Control W to close it. And look, now that page appears in this magazine layout. So cool, you guys. Let's close that, and we'll go get this one again. So I'm just copying it, and now we want to look for the right side of this. So we'll open this up. Here's that smart object, and paste in our design, hide this text, scale the design to fit the page, save it, close it, boom, it is in place. And then let's go get our cover. Did we open the cover? No, let's see. Let's go back and get that. It's right here. How fun is this cover? I made this just for a fictitious magazine for something I was creating, and it turned out so fun that I love to pop it in any chance I get. Here we are. All right. So now we're going to go to the folder that's got this cover in it. And here is the smart object for the cover. We'll paste it in, scale it up. I guess we don't have to worry about hiding this because we're on top of it this time. And there we go. Look at it. And then we could come in here and see backgrounds. What do we got? Oh, some different textures. So I'm just like toggling layers off to figure out what they do. Like, is this layer, what is it contributing? Do I really want it? Oh, here's some other. So let's see. Maybe we don't want this in here. Let's hide that. Oh, now we have a color background that strangely doesn't fill the scene. Weird. We can probably just fix it like that. How cool. So we could, put in our own color in here, but we can also just use what is available. And so you can see that this mockup template includes a variety of different pre-made backgrounds. So there's so much fun, guys, that you can play with. Let's pop over to our chat, and I see we have a question here. When you find an effect that works well, it becomes your design go-to, like using the same global light angle or the same settings for Gaussian blur to start every time and see if it works. Yes, right? Like once you kind of get the hang of this and you see what's working, it's really easy to have that as a starting point and build from there. Another comment here, gradients are awesome. It's such a simple way to engage viewers that they won't notice, right? Gradients are so great. They're like the secret sauce to so many things, because if you think about in real life, like nothing's flat, right? I mean, even if you are painting your wall yellow in my case, it's a flat color. Yes, it may have a flat finish, but even just looking at the wall back there right now, it is a gradient. In real life, in the real environment, everything's a gradient. The sky is a gradient, right? The sky is not just one shade of blue from left to right and top to bottom, all of it. It is a gradient. And so when we are creating these things that are trying to emulate real life, we need to do it with gradients. This whole thing could be an ode to gradients. And I love this. Oh, Brad. They should call them gradients. Ooh, I love that. That is a great idea. They are gradients. I love it. How fun. How fun. Well, hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today and playing with great gradients for the purpose of creating mock-ups. I hope you had fun. I do want to remind you, if you liked this and you're like, I need more of this in my life, come check us out in Nashville for Creative Pro Week, happening June 29th through July 3rd. It is going to be a very good time. And of course, you can save $100 with the promo code livestream over at creativepro.com/events. And if you end up joining us, I will see you there. I'm going to be there. I'm teaching a couple of sessions that are going to be really, really fun. And there is an online component to this, but I think at least one of the sessions I'm teaching is not going to be in the online component. So for that, you'd have to come join us in person, and we would love to see you. But as always, it's my pleasure to be here. Drop me a message in the comments and let me know what other kinds of things you would like to attend a live stream about, and we will see if we can make it happen. All right, everybody, happy photoshopping, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.